Hi there, smart monks! Welcome to my channel. This is my little platform where I turn struggling math students into maths masters. And I post videos Tuesdays and Thursdays, and it really helps the channel if you would subscribe. So please do that and turn on the notification button if you want to know when I post any new videos. So I have a couple of announcements before I jump into today's lesson. The first thing is it's crunch time now. I know most of you are writing your finals within the next 2 weeks or so. So I just want to share with you that I will be having a 3-hour live revision session for paper one for paper 1 and one for paper 2. And if you are interested in that, please email mathsmonkeyhelp@gmail.com and use the title of the email Maths Revision Class 2023, and I will send you all the information that you need on that. All right. Obviously, if you are watching this, like there will be students who will be watching this next year and year after that, just update the year. Okay, then I'm also offering 15-minute quick question sessions. You know, sometimes you're working through something and you just can't figure out why you're not getting the right answer. This you can sort of just send me an email with 15-minute quick question session, and I will send you a time, and you send me your cell phone number, and I give you a WhatsApp call that will take place for 15 minutes. And I will give you answers for that. Please note, I do charge for both of the revision lessons and the 15-minute questions, but you can email me and to get all the details on what it costs, etc., so that I'm able to actually help you prepare for your exams. Then the third thing, a lot of announcements today. The third thing is I have a lot of students who are asking me and making requests for videos that I have already made, that is already available on the channel. And so my thinking is that some of you just don't know how to find the videos. So what I've done is, if you go on my channel and you go to playlists, in the playlist you will see there's literally a folder for every single topic that is covered in maths. Okay, so probability, data handling, measurements, maps, and finance. There's a folder of each, and all the content that has to do that I've made is embedded in those folders. So if you want to find something, or if there's a specific thing that you're looking for, please go and type in there and you'll find it. Also, I would recommend, if you're really struggling and you don't have a teacher that sort of can explain it to you in a way that you understand, I would suggest that you work through each of those folders and watch them, you know, one video per day up until your exams, and I can guarantee you're going to see the differences. Yeah, and then lastly, I want to ask if you guys can just help me spread the word about the channel. If you know that there's students or people who are struggling with a subject, please share the channel with them. Let them know that I make these videos, and if you find it helpful, that maybe they will also find it helpful. This really helps the channel. This really helps me sort of make more content and be able to really make videos to your specific needs, and really just allows me to help you guys more. So I would appreciate it if you spread the word, share it on your WhatsApp groups at school, share it with your classes and even with your teachers. Share it with them so that they also know that this resource is available. All right. So apologies for all the announcements. I just needed to make sure that we are on the same page with that. And I'm going to now jump to what this video is on. So this video is on fuel consumption. Again, another requested video. And in this video, I just explained to you what fuel consumption is, you know, what you need to understand in order to answer the questions. And then I work through 2 examples to better explain this content. So without further ado, let's do this. Okay, grade 12s, fuel consumption. So before we start with fuel consumption, there's a couple of things that you have to understand in order for these questions to make sense. So the first thing you must understand is that a car's fuel tank has a maximum capacity for the number of liters it can hold. So every car, you know, the tank in which the petrol is actually held has got a maximum. So you can only fill it up to that brim. Okay, so every car has got a maximum. So you have to note that. Second thing is that cars use fuel at a specific rate per kilometer. Okay, so what this means is, by the way, I'm using the word fuel. Fuel and petrol synonyms. It's the same thing. So when I speak of fuel, I'm actually speaking of petrol and vice versa. Okay, cars use fuel at a specific rate per kilometer. So what does that mean? So rate per kilometer means for every kilometer, it uses about a similar amount of petrol. Okay, so for example, a car can use 4.5 liters per 50 kilometers, right? So every 50 kilometers that this car travels, it will use 4.5 liters of petrol. Then fuel is bought at a cost per liter, right? So that's fairly simple. If you go to the petrol station, you'll see there's always the prices, and the price that they give you there is what 1 liter of petrol costs. Okay, so these are the three fundamental things that you need to understand when attempting fuel consumption questions. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to work through 2 exam type questions on how you can apply what I've just taught you. Okay, so let's read through this example together. Mark takes a 496 kilometer trip from Cape Town to Knysna for his annual vacation with a full tank of petrol. Along the way, he stops for fuel and fills up again, paying 849 Rand and 24 cents. The capacity of his tank is 80 liters and the cost of fuel is 23 Rand 59 per liter. So let's think about this quickly and let's just break down this question. So he's traveling from Cape Town to Knysna and that distance is 496 kilometers, right? Then as he leaves Cape Town, he travels and then at a petrol station along the way, right, he fills up again. So obviously from where he left off, he left with a full tank and then he drove a certain amount of kilometers and then he fills up again. And then they tell you how much he paid to fill it up again. The capacity of his tank is 80 liters, so we now know that this is the maximum amount of liters that can fit in his tank. And the cost of fuel, which means when you went to the petrol station, the cost that they charge per liter is 23 Rand 59. Okay, so take note in these questions. It's so important that you read the questions, break it down, decipher it, make sure that it makes sense to you before you even try and answer the questions that follow from that. Make sure that you have a full understanding of all the information that's being given to you. Okay, so let's try and look at the first question. How many liters did he put in at the petrol station? Now, grade 12s, I will encourage you, if you feel confident about this, pause the video here and try to answer the questions before I give the answers. And then you can come back and see, okay, did I do the right thing? And sort of just be able to gauge where you are with your understanding so that if you got most of this right, then you know you sort of don't have to worry about this section. But if you didn't, then you can use the answers that I give for you to sort of check that and see where are you missing something in your understanding. Fine. So the first question says 1.1, how many liters did he put in at the petrol station? Right? So let's have a look here. He paid a total of 849 and 24 cents, right? So that's how many, that's the total he used, right? And if one costs 23 Rand 59, then in order for you to find the amount of liters he bought, you're just going to take the total amount and divide it by the cost for every liter. And that will then give you 36, which means that he bought 36 liters, or to fill up his car again, he put in 36 liters. Okay, next question. Before refueling, Mark's gauge showed that his tank was half full. Was his gauge accurate? Now, gauge just means the petrol, the petrol gauge in a car that tells you how much petrol you have. It's got a full tank, if it's a full tank or if it's a half a tank, etc. There's this needle that goes from empty to full. Okay, so what this question is saying is that when he got to the petrol station, the tank showed half, right? That it's half full. And they want to know, is that accurate? Now let's think about this. He's got a capacity of, his tank has got an 80-liter capacity, right? If it was half full, then that means he would need 40 liters to fill. Okay, so let's think about this again. 80 liters is the maximum amount that his car can take. If his tank shows, if it's accurate that it says that it's a half a tank full of petrol, then that means there is 40 liters, in the tank. But do you see now that he only bought 36 liters, which means that there was a little bit more than 44 to be precise, liters in the tank, because he had to then add the 36 liters to fill it to make it the 80 liters. Okay, so when the question asks, was the gauge accurate, the gauge would have only been accurate at half a tank if he needed exactly 40 liters to fill it back up. So he only needed 36, which means, no, his tank was a little bit over half, 44 liters to be precise, as it would have needed exactly 40 liters if it was half. Okay, so I hope that makes sense to you. His capacity, his entire tank takes 80 liters. So 40 liters is actually half, not 36. All right, then let's look at 1.3. If his car uses 10 liters per 100 kilometers, how far from Knysna is he? Now, this is a nice question, but I think that a lot of people look at this question, they have no idea where to start. Okay, so I'm going to coach you through this. If we think, right, he traveled 496 kilometers. When he left Cape Town, he had a full tank already. So he had 80 liters in his tank. Then when he filled up, so the question is actually asking, when he filled up, right, how far from Knysna was he? Okay, so in other words, do you agree with me that he left with a full tank? So he had all 80 liters in his tank, right? Then he drove to a petrol station and he literally drove 36 liters out before he needed to fill, before he got to the petrol station. How do I know that? Because it took him 36 liters then to fill it up again. So to make it full again, right? So he traveled from Cape Town to the petrol station. He used 36 liters. Okay. Now, we need to find out if he uses 10 liters for every 100 kilometers. And when he got to the petrol station, he used 36 liters. You can now use this information to calculate how far he still needs to travel by doing the following. Firstly, we understand that he used 36 liters because that's how much he needed to fill up again. Now, we're going to use the LVN method. So the rate is 10 liters per 100 kilometers. And he traveled and used 36 of the liters to get to the petrol station. So in order for us to find out how many kilometers he actually drove that 36 liters out, you will do the following calculation. Anti-clockwise, divide first, times. So I took 100, divided by 10, multiplied by 36, and it gave me the 360 kilometers. So what does this mean? This means that based on the rate of which he uses petrol, he then, in order to have used up 36 liters, he had traveled 360 kilometers. Okay, so watch this now. If the total distance from Cape Town to Knysna is 496 and he traveled 360 kilometers to get to the petrol station, Do you agree with me that I just take the 496 and subtract the 360, and that's how far he still needs to travel? So the calculation would be 496 minus the 360 kilometers to give you 136 kilometers. So he is 136 kilometers away from Knysna. Okay, please have a look at my conversions video if you're not sure how to do this LVN method. Yeah, okay. Hopefully you get this. If not, don't worry, rewind, play it again, rewind, play it again. I promise you, by the third time, you'll know exactly how this works and the thinking behind what needs to, how you need to answer these questions. So let's read the next example. Drake travels to work along the same route daily. The distance between his home and work is 26 kilometers. The capacity of Drake's petrol tank is 65 liters, and the current petrol price per liter is 22 Rand 33. Now for this, grade 12s, you now understand all the information given here. The capacity is the maximum amount of petrol he can put in his car, and the 22 Rand 33 is how much the petrol stations charge per liter. Fine. 1.1. Assuming Drake only uses his car to travel to work and back for 5 days, what is the total number of kilometers he travels? So obviously, when he goes to work, he has to come back again. So per day, he's traveling 26 kilometers to work and 26 kilometers back. So that will be the 26 multiplied by 2. And this question wants to know for 5 days, so you're going to take that answer and multiply it by 5. So this is what the calculation would look like. It would be 26 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 5, and that will give you 260 kilometers. Fine, that's simple. So for 5 days, he just traveled to work and he traveled 260 kilometers. Now let's read the next question. For these 5 days, Drake spends exactly 527 and 88 cents for petrol. What is his rate of consumption per 55 kilometers? In other words, how much petrol, how many liters does he use every time he travels 55 kilometers? Fine. Let's see how we will do this. So you agree with me that this is the amount he pays for petrol for the to travel the 260 kilometers. So if this is his total amount, to find out how many liters, right, he used for the 260 kilometers, you are going to first find out how many liters he actually bought. So how do we do this? The amount of liters used is the 527.88, which is how much he paid for petrol, divided by the price for 1 liter, and that gives you a total of 23.63994,626 liters. Take note, this is not my final answer, so that's why I am not rounding it off. Okay, so that's how many liters Drake used, okay, for the 260 kilometers. Okay, so if we have look at what is his total kilometers, is the 260 kilometers. So this is how much he used to travel that amount of kilometers. So let's find out, and there's two ways to do this answer. I'm going to show you the first way, which is how most of your teachers would show you. And then I'm going to show you doing the LVN method, which is my method. And whichever one you find is easiest, please do it that way. So the total amount of kilometers is 260. So now we're going to find out if this is how much you use for this amount of liters. We just take the 260 and divided the 23.6, which is this amount of liters, and divided by the 260 to give us how many liters he uses for 1 kilometer. Okay, so here we're finding what is the rate for 1 kilometer. So we take the total petrol divided by the 260, and this gives us 0.0909. Again, I'm not rounding off this long decimal. Why? Because it's not my final answer. So if this is the amount of liters, grade 12s, for this is the amount of liters when he travels, that this car uses when he travels 1 kilometer. I'm just going to take this, multiply it by 55 to tell me how much he uses for 55. for 55 kilometers, right? So he uses a total of 5 liters. So that means that the rate is 5 liters for every 55 kilometers that he travels. Now let's have a look at if you want to use the LVN method. Again, you're first going to still find out what is the amount of liters used, which we did the calculation in this step, okay, which is the 23.6399, etc. So what I've written down here is that this is how much he uses for 260 kilometers. So that's how I'm going to write it. He uses this amount of liters for that amount of kilometers. But the question wants to know about how much is his rate for 55 kilometers. So I'm going to place the 55 under the kilometers, anti-clockwise, divide first, then multiply, and I also end up with 5 liters. So again, his rate here is 5 liters for 55 kilometers. And that is how you would reason your way through fuel consumption questions. Alright, grade 12s, there's that video. I hope you found it helpful. Please give it a thumbs up. If you did, add in the comment section. Let me know how you felt. If you have any questions and any recommendations for future videos. Again, a reminder, I will be hosting revision classes that you can sign up for. I will not have any exam revision videos on my channel that I'm leaving for the live classes. So if you are interested in that, please email mathsmonkeyhelp@gmail.com. And for those of you who are writing soon, and for those of you who will not be attending the online revision classes, I wish you all the best. And it's been a pleasure helping you this year. You guys have been really so sweet in the comment section. You've been really just, encouraging me to keep making videos with the sweet and the kind things that you say, and it's such a joy for me to see that I am actually able to help you guys. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.